champion, first gold sprinter for Ireland in over 70 years, in Madrid 20 years ago this year. Went a bit off the rails in terms of injuries after that, and then he struggled after competitive sport, but has now got his life back on track, and is perhaps best known now at this stage for being the post-race interviewer on RTE. He's going to be with us for the full hour between 8 and 9, and Vinny Perth is going to be here with me for the football show. We've got lots of football to talk about. The Republic of Ireland squad named earlier today. Kevin O'Toole, who was kind of what came out of it, I think, for most people at around 10:30, which is no disrespect to him. I think it was just entirely left field. And also we know that Josh Honan is on standby, and so is Johnny Kenny, who scored 3 goals in a week. But Celtic, bizarrely tonight, have conceded 3 already against Midtjylland in the Europa League. But in the Conference League, Cameron Hill, who joins us here as well alongside Vinny Perth and I, this could be a massive result for Shamrock Rovers. They're leading in Greece in the second half.
Yeah, it was a first half penalty for Graham Burke. Not the greatest of penalties, it must be said. The goalkeeper, Strakoschka, for AK Athens went the same way, and maybe he could have done better with it, but Rovers won't mind. They're a goal up, and the first points of their campaign after that really disappointing result against Celje last time out. So, yeah, all looking good for Stephen Bradley's side as we are, 56 minutes gone on the clock?
Vinny's a big week for Rovers with the cup final against Cork City at the weekend. They obviously closed out the title race this day last week and then lost to Sligo. So their form had gone off the face of a cliff at the tail end of the season, but this would be a huge lift if they're going to qualify from the group if they get 3 points here.
Yeah, I think they know from particularly last year they need 7 points more or less to get you out of the group. They've got 2 very winnable ties. So worst case scenario is even if they're under a little bit of pressure now the last little while, even if AEK with the equalise, they've got 2 winnable ties and that gets them out of the group, and that will be their target. Let's hope to get 3 points and make that job a little bit easier. And again, to mention, I hate going on to money, but like £400,000 is the prize money for winning a game in Europe at the moment. Cheap shot, but to win the domestic league is 120,000, so it's quite significant amount of money and everything else that comes with it. So they've a half an hour to hold on. Let's hope they do. Will be difficult. So,
not to be a party pooper before we bring Stephen Doyle in ahead of Shell's match against Drita as well. Is there a possibility? Look, obviously it's great that 2 teams are in Europe right now, but if Rovers continue to accumulate this type of funding year after year after year, if they get into the group stages, because they're going to have an easier path as champions now next season to qualify for group stage, that they might just blow the other teams out of the water financially within the league.
There is an element to that. I mean, they have their own stadium now, between themselves, to be fair to them, and the local council. Between the two of them, it's an absolute huge opportunity to raise revenue as well. So they've got a lot of things going for them. They still lost 5-6 games of football this year domestically. They're still there to be got at. There's probably a ceiling of the type of player we can get in. The challenge is for everybody, I know these struggles myself, is when you try and bring in a player a level above the league, it's really difficult. So there's levels, and we've seen so many teams go up and down, but it is a talking point. It's one we have to watch, but that's not their fault. They've got to go and do what they do and just be the dominant club. That's just life, isn't it?
I think it's also worth remembering, Will, that the winning and getting through to Europe last year was literally the width of a post for Shamrock Rovers against Vikingur with a last-minute penalty. I think the money they made from getting through that round of the Champions League basically covered the loss that they'd made the previous calendar year. So while it looks like there's a huge amount of money accumulating for Shamrock Rovers, we got to remember that it is still football and there's plenty of money going out the gap as well. They have a really high wage bill when it comes to the players on their roster at the moment, so I wouldn't necessarily assume that they're completely rolling in it either as a result of getting so far in Europe.
But winning £400,000 tonight, for example, will go down as the headline in terms of monetary. But they've travelled there, and you must go charter flights. Yeah. Okay, you've obviously accommodated maybe 35 people between staff and everything else. Hotels, it's still, they're still making good money, but there's bills, and then there's players' bonuses, then there's managers' staff bonuses, all that stuff. So it does add up, to be fair, but it's still significant money they're making. Be under no illusions about that.
I was going to say, going to the Azores earlier this year wasn't cheap. Almost you want to, what happens with Shells, we get learned twice. It's a bus up to Belfast as opposed to having to charter a flight such a distance. But at the moment in the Greek capital, it's 1-0 to Shamrock Rovers. Stephen Doyle is with us as well, ahead of Shelburne against Drita. So again, Steve, 7 the magic number, we think, for teams to potentially get out into the knockout stages of the competition, and Shells have got an opportunity to pick up 3 more here tonight.
Yeah, they sure do, Will. They've got a point on the board already. They've had a draw and a defeat in this campaign. Myself and Vinny were here for their last game, Shelbourne, and look, we spoke about it on the League of Ireland pod yesterday on Off the Ball. It was a really impressive performance by Joey O'Brien's team against the Swedish side, Häcken, who are a really quality side. That was back on the 2nd of October. And when you think about where Shelbourne were when Damien Duff decided to step down as the head coach, it was looking really bleak for them right then, because at that point it didn't look like they'd even qualify for Europe. You were kind of thinking, well, what can they even do in Europe, despite being in the Champions League, and we knew they could drop down through the competitions. But it just didn't look good for them, and I suppose they got a little bit of luck with the draw in getting Linfield a second time to qualify for the Conference League, and a team they knew they were better than, and that they knew they could defeat to get into the group stage for the first time in the club's history. But all that aside, the job that Joey O'Brien has done is absolutely sensational. He brought in a couple of really important signings, Vessel Spiel, the goalkeeper, and as well as that Milan Mbang, the right wing back who came in from Cork City. And John Henry Francis has really looked a quality player in the last, last 7 or 8 games where he's been involved. He came off the bench in that game against Häcken. But I think the key thing that Joey O'Brien did was, let's get back to basics here, lads. Let's defend first, and then we can worry about the rest of the pitch then after that. And they've been really, really tight at the back for most games. There have been a couple of games where it hasn't gone to plan. But as I said, just as well as what he's done tactically on the pitch, the mental side of the game for this Shelbourne team, because they really were at the bottom of the barrel confidence-wise, and he has really injected a real sense of confidence, real self-belief into the Shelbourne team, and he's got their key players playing really well. Like myself, Vinny and Gareth all chose Kerr McEnroy in our team of the season for the League of Ireland. He has been sensational over the last few weeks. He's a grafter, he's a really good player on the ball, he's got a good football brain, pick out a pass, but he's there, he'll die on the pitch for his teammates. I suppose maybe in a bit like Roberto Lopez for Shamrock Rovers. And then you've got, I suppose at the back as well, Paddy Barrett as well, really key leader in that team as well. And Spiel has been excellent in goal for them. So it's just been brilliant. Now, incidentally, I was talking to Mossy Quinn, who is the chief executive now at Shelbourne, of course, came in from his job with Dublin GAA. And, he's been kind of learning on his feet as well. And what a brilliant job he's done. The first time he's ever taken charge of a football club in the League of Ireland, and he gets thrust into the group stage of European competition. And he's just been talking about how hectic it's been, because they just haven't had a break. They've only had maybe 3 days, 4 days in between matches, going from a cup game into a League of Ireland game, then into European tie. And just the organisation that goes into these big European games as well, because UEFA have so many stipulations, so many rules, so many things that you have to do in organising these ties as well. A massive amount of work that's gone in from Mossy Quinn and also everybody around him at the club. So it's been a brilliant run for them, but most importantly on the pitch they do have that point, and this is a game tonight that they could possibly get 3. This side, Drida from Kosovo, 4-time champions in their domestic league. A decent side, but definitely a side that Shelbourne, if they are on their game tonight, they could be definitely getting 3 points from this match. As I said, against Häcken, I think we felt as the game went on, myself and Vinny, Häcken had better options up front. They looked like a better attacking team. They were sharper on the ball, better passers, needed a bit more pace in the team. But Shelbourne played to their strengths. It was a really poor night weather-wise. The pitch wasn't in good nick, and Shells just did what they did best, or what they do best, and that's defend their own box and maybe try and hit teams on the break. I think they'll get more chances in the game here tonight, and I don't think they will be under as much stress as at the back. So it's definitely a winnable game for them. Yeah. I should just give you the team news as well, Will.
Yep.
4 changes to that Shelbourne team. Dropping out from that draw against St Patrick's Athletic on the final day of the season, Ali Coote, Cameron Ledwidge, John Martin and Evan Caffrey. Coming into the team, John Henry Francis, JJ Lunny, Mipo Odebeko and Dan Kelly. So the Shelbourne team, as we got it, this is how they've given it to UEFA. There could be a couple of little minor alterations. It'd be interesting to get Vinny's thoughts here. But it's Spiel in goal, and Mbeng right back, Norris left back, Barrett. They've got McElroy down as a centre half. I feel maybe Mark Coyle will drop in there with McElroy in the centre of the pitch. Harry Wood and John Henry Francis either side of him. JJ Lunny and John Henry Francis either side of him, with Harry Wood in the right of the attack, Dan Kelly on the left, and Odebeko leading the line for them.
Right, Vinny, is it going to be Coyle at centre back? I mean, again, everywhere has kind of gone with similar to UEFA. They've just copied it. No flash score, live score of Boca McEnroy sitting back in the back four. I can't imagine. You probably want him further forward, don't you?
No, so UEFA, like Stephen was talking about the stipulations, that UEFA insists you put team sheet out and in people in their positions. So pay no attention to that whatsoever. Joey O'Brien will do something different. So I imagine it will be something along the lines of back four. And so it just caught me attention there, looking at a Shell's legend, Tony McCarthy's now the physio, Shamrock Rovers, having a bit of a scrap with 3 or 4 players from AEK. So the Rovers are still quite comfortable at the moment. McGinty's had a lot of stuff to do, but it's been comfortable. But actually, an interesting one that's had to come into my mind there when we were chatting just before that, when you think of Shelbourne. In 2021, they had to, get promoted again back into the Premier Division. So the story of Rovers getting away or somebody getting away, football is magical at times as well. So you can come from nowhere. It's probably a little bit easier in Air League to come from Dublin, and makes it a little bit easier in terms of the talent and the pool and so on. But the story of Shelbourne is remarkable. They thought they'd lose that great old ground, Tulka Park. They've managed to hold on to that. They've had 6-7 years between 2013 to 20, sort of in the first division, scrapping away, and now look at them. We're talking about European group stage, European football. It's remarkable.
Also, crucially, right, the people going to Tulka Park didn't fall off when Duff left. People wondered about this, whether it was like the Duff effect, and this is the only reason. But I was looking at their attendances for the season. Now, I know their form picked up, and I'm sure people want to go and see them in the race for Europe at the end of the season, whatever else. But Joey O'Brien Shelbourne have had as many people coming through the gate as Damien Duff's did.
Oh yeah, I think we've the people at Shelbourne and so many other clubs have created a fan base there that is loyal. A lot of Shells have always had a good support, a very historic club and that. So Rings End and down around that way. So look, people are still continue to follow them. But no, it's been remarkable. My only concern, interesting, maybe we touch on it later on with Steve after an update, is it's almost like, as an Irish sporting culture, and particularly we've taken this a little bit for granted. Like, I was in Tala today, most of the day. There's nothing of note around the game. The attendance for Shamrock Rovers last week was just okay for a group stage, or 2 weeks ago, European game. That's the only thing that bothers me a little bit. Now, look, the cup final is apparently, tickets sales wise, is 30,000 plus. So there's lots of good things, but this is big news for us. This is big football. Like, it's, the clubs can't just take people for granted. We've got to support them. Insist we get people out, because we're always chasing the next stars.
Yeah, fingers crossed next 17 minutes go well for Shamrock Rovers, and we'll have updates with Steve across the show from Shells against Drita as well. 087 9180 180 is the WhatsApp number, 53106 if you want to send us an SMS the old style as well. Let's get into the Ireland squad, and I mean the Republic of Ireland squad first of all, Cameron. So we had one massive surprise with that squad earlier.
Yeah, you alluded to it at the top of the hour there, Will. Republic of Ireland boss Hamer Hallgrimsson says he's pleased to give New York City defender Kevin O'Toole a call up to the international setup. The 26-year-old qualifies to play for Ireland through his grandfather and will be in contention to feature in the World Cup qualifiers against Portugal and Hungary later this month. Kevin is a brother of Gillian O'Toole, who's the captain of the Treaty United women's team, and Hallgrimsson revealed that a shortage of wing-back options forced him to look further afield.
Yeah, it's just the situation we have. We're lacking depth in this position. And I've watched Kevin O'Toole play. I know he's a good player. He's been playing and starting all games for New York City FC for about 3 seasons now. So he's experienced. He's 26. It's not like he's a young player. We are testing. He has quality. And yeah, it's just the situation. Obviously, if Robbie was here, we would have picked Robbie. Callum, Ryan are ahead at the moment, but this just gives us an option to look at him and assess him, and he would definitely give us depth in that position.
Vinny, was this guy on your radar?
No. Just another Hallgrimsson. I don't know, like, you're not building continuity. This, I understand. In isolation, you can bring people in and out of any squad, 1 or 2 here and there, but I think the sort of chopping and changing, and when you look at the amount of defenders that are listed as well, I mean, is it okay? He's probably if you think about it, maybe he's cover for Liam Scales, who you imagine would play wing back. So he's got a bit of cover there, maybe. But when you think of, say, Johnny Kenny being on standby, did we need all of those defenders, and could we have dropped another striker in, for argument's sake? So it's goals we need.
Festy being named as a forward when he's played wing back most of the time.
Yeah. So and that's the point. I think. Do you expect Kevin O'Toole to play? Probably not. Will the manager then try and blood him if things weren't going well, just to give him a cap? All of that stuff. But this is the World Cup qualifiers. We shouldn't be, fishing for something in the middle of a World Cup qualifier and
I'd
trying
understand
something
if this
out.
was June at the end of a season and there was a couple of friendlies, but in this case it's Portugal and Hungary where 4 points minimum are needed from the two games. I appreciate Ryan Manning is suspended for the Portugal game, but he's not getting near the field. What's the point?
I don't know. Other than on paper it's a bit of cover, and the point is there is some who listen who'll go, well, what are you complaining about? It's only one man in a 23-man squad. This has been a characteristic of this manager to drop people in and out. When you go back, Matt Doherty's in, Matt Doherty's out, that bugged me at the time because I know that was an easy one for people to criticise Matt Doherty in terms of his form. You look at Malumbi, isn't good enough to play, isn't good enough to make the squad, then he starts and then he's important to us. So they haven't built that continuity. Andy Moran comes in. I'm excited to see him, but again, has not been around for so long. And so is the manager only finding out all of a sudden Andy Moran is like a number 10 type player who can do something for us? I'm a bit perplexed by the squad.
Well, it's so, just very briefly, like the whole overall message of Hallgrimsson's reign has been to not make the jersey so heavy and to make people want to play and love playing for Ireland again. And when it's so haphazard like
he's done the opposite of that.
Completely. That's the point, is that it's so haphazard, people are dropped at the drop of a hat. If you're not going to play this guy or you're not going to play an option you're just bringing in for cover, was James McLean that much of a persona non grata that you couldn't bring him in this time round? I don't know. I just don't know. A lot of it confuses me. We'll talk about Johnny Kenny a bit later on the football show as well, but even like Malumbi not getting in the squad in August but then making the squad and becoming an important starter can't indicate that he was that far down the pecking order before you bring him in to start in Portugal. So we have
particularly with Evan. Sorry, I think that's a big story. Evan Ferguson. I'm a little bit surprised Evan's in the squad. I understand that, but
Roma says he's out for 2 weeks.
Yeah,
now, I know the FAI's own medical team will look at him.
Yeah, and that's the modern. I understand why you name him, but I don't know. I think we need to win these games. Yeah. Let's be honest. We need 4 points minimum, don't we? And hope something else goes away. So no, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I'm not expecting Armenia to take points from Hungary realistically either. So Caelan Doris back in the Ireland team as well, Cameron?
Indeed, returns to captain Ireland in several changes for Saturday's Autumn Nations Series test with Japan at the Aviva Stadium. He made his return, in fact, from the injury off the bench in last weekend's defeat to New Zealand in Chicago. Ulster's Jacob Stockdale comes in to the team on the left wing, while Munster centre Tom Farrell starts in his international debut. Head coach Andy Farrell insists it's not a case of token caps being handed out against Japan, and that the players in action this weekend can send a message to the rest of the squad.
Well, there's obviously everything gets thrown into the pot, doesn't it? In regards to selection, when you're coming up with 4 big games and you throw a bit of travel in there, and at the stage of the season that is at, so everything gets thrown into the pot. But I suppose the lads that don't get a chance to play this weekend, they're the ones that's brimming to get back, because coming back to Dublin on the back of a loss isn't nice. You always want to get back on the horse, but at the same time, the lads that get to go onto the field this weekend, they're the ones that have the chance to prove to the rest of them that they mean business. So yeah, I suppose everything comes into play.
Yeah, we'll break down that team selection with Fiona Hayes in a few minutes' time. Susanna Mullen is going to be covering the game for us on Saturday. Will be with us as well to look at that team to face Japan. We had the All-Stars named as well, Cameron, for their hurlers. So they flipped this year after year. So hurling was revealed early this morning. 8:30 tomorrow night we get to find out the football team at the RDS. But a lot of first-time All-Stars here.
Yes, indeed, and it is, of course, All-Ireland champions Tipperary who lead the way with 7 players on the Hurling All-Stars, the PwC Hurling All-Stars for 2025. 10 first-time recipients. Liam McCarthy Cup winning captain Ronan Maher has been selected at centre-back, with Rhys Shelley picking in goal, and Owen Connolly and Young Hurler of the Year contender Robert Doyle in defence. The Premier's other players to make the team are Fords Jake Morris, Andrew Ormond and John McGrath. Munster and League champions have 4 players, with defender Sean O'Donoghue and Kieran Joyce, joined by midfielder Darren Fitzgibbon and forward Brian Hayes. That's the Cork contingent. Then for Kilkenny, Mossy Keown follows in the footsteps of his father Liam by becoming an All-Star, while the Cats fullback will collect his third award tomorrow night. Galway's Cathal Mannion has been picked up in midfield, with Dublin's Cian O'Sullivan selected in the half-forward line. Jake Morris, Brian Hayes and John McGrath are in contention to be named the Hurler of the Year at the gala event in the RDS on Friday night.
I asked Andrew Ormond last week who he voted for, whether he voted for Jake Morris or whether he voted for John McGrath. He said, I'm not telling you. So they were keeping it very much.
Tell me, Will, why is the All-Star such a prestige? Like, it's almost listed, like, if you get into Team of the Year in soccer, great. It's a great honour, don't get me wrong.
It's forgotten.
But it's like in your list of achievements. So I listened to the show when you'd say, and he's had 5 All-Stars. It's almost like part of his trophy cabinet.
100%.
Why is it such a prestige?
I think it's because it goes back so long. This goes back to the early 70s, and it was so hard to get an All-Star in the early days, particularly because they used to pick literally position by position. So if you had someone who was a better right cornerback than you didn't get in the team. Nowadays, the journalists pick the team, they try and move players around. Like, I'd argue Cathal Mannion spent a lot of his hurling this year in the half-forward line. He's picked in midfield. They argue that out as much as people want, but particularly back in the old days, All-Stars really, really mattered. And I suppose probably the only recognition they were getting. Because you're right, like if a League of Ireland footballer retires, you don't hear he was a 7-time Premier Division Team of the Year member. But I guarantee it'll be near the first line you'll hear if a footballer retires, 7-time football All-Star. It's seen as remarkably important.
No, and I think it's brilliant. It's just from a sort of a soccer guy looking in, going, "What? Tell me why?" As in, or where it's come from. But it's brilliant, and it's almost like it's such an. Does I presume there's a medal of some sort?
So you get a little award. They're not too similar to ones behind us, and they're really, really important. You go to anyone's house, it's so important to them. Brilliant. And like I remember when Brian Whelan, particularly when they had to change the All-Star system, didn't get one when he was the Hurler of the Year in 1994. He broke his hand at the All-Stars because he didn't get an All-Star. You really shouldn't care. He just walked up and been called Hurler of the Year, but because the vote for the All-Stars was before the final, he actually wasn't in the All-Star team. Broke his hand in City West, which is where it was back then. He punched the door. That is it for the news round for now. Vinny's going to stick with me for the rest of the show. It is still 1-0 to Rovers in Greece as well. Cameron's going to be keeping me up to speed on the headlines later on. Thanks for joining us, Cameron. He's going to be back in a little bit, but it is time now for us to take a look at the cash machine.
News Talk's Cash Machine.
We had another huge winner on the cash machine last Friday. It has been reloaded for this week with another record prize amount, and the number that you need to know is €263,000 exactly. There are 2 ways to enter now. You can visit newstalk.com/cash machine, where you can enter online, or if you want to play by text, all you have to do, text play to 57557. That is 57557. Your entry needs to be in by 3 p.m. this coming Friday. Then across the Go Loud network of stations, someone will be getting the all-important